White text over video of past events. Logo, Cultural Access Collaborative. Professional Development Series presents Sense and Support, Building Meaningful Sensory Kits. At left, presentation slides. All content will be voiced. At right, stacked mini videos of presenting speaker and A.S.L. interpreter.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Hello, and welcome to Sense and Support, Building Meaningful Sensory Kits, presented by the Cultural Access Collaborative. My name is Melanie Zehner, she, her pronouns, and I am a steering committee member with the collab. I am a white woman wearing a maroon shirt with my hair, dark hair down and curly, and there is a black background behind me. For those of you who are not familiar with the Cultural Access Collab, our mission is to empower Illinois cultural spaces to become more accessible. Next slide, please.
Title: Cultural Access Collaborative.
More accessible to visitors with disabilities. There are four primarily pillars central to our work, and for those included, we have professional developments, accessible equipment loans, access calendar, and a network too, for a growing statewide network. Next slide, please.
Program accessibility. Scan central QR code for captions.
Accessibility is a priority for us. So our program today includes real-time captioning provided by reporting, as well as A.S.L. interpretation provided by First Choice Interpreting. If you'd like to view captions in a separate browser, you can do so by using the stream text link included in the chat. We encourage you to submit questions for our presenters for our Q&A feature. If you have any challenges with accessibility, please reach out to our support team via the chat function. In case you find the chat pop-ups bothersome, you can turn off the chat in the Show Chat Previews by clicking the caret next to the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Next slide, please.
Sense and Support. Speaker, A.B.L.E. Accettura.
Melanie, thanks so much for introducing everybody. Welcome everyone to today's professional development session about sensory toolkits. Sensory toolkits are a vital support for many of our guests and patrons in the cultural sector. They create a pathway for access and a sense of belonging and welcome in our spaces. So today we're going to learn about the 8 senses, how sensory sensitivity can manifest, and how to design sensory toolkits that best support your community. Next slide, please.
Presenter introductions. 4 headshots.
Great. So we are going to now introduce all of our presenters. We're kind of going to go down the line, and each person should share their names, their pronouns, their cultural institutions, and a visual description. So I'll kick us off. My name is A.B.L.E. Accettura. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior learning specialist at Aquarium. I have brown hair. Right now I'm wearing a brown shirt and purple glasses. And I'll throw it over to Melanie.
Hi there, my name is Melanie Zehner, and I use she, her pronouns. I am the Accessibility and Inclusion Coordinator here at the Lincoln Park Zoo, and also for full transparency, I am a teaching artist at A.B.L.E, Artists Breaking Limits and Expectations. I am currently wearing a maroon color shirt, and my hair is curly. I am a white woman with a black background.
Hi all, I'm Katie Yohe. She, her pronouns work for me. I am the founder and executive artistic director of A.B.L.E, Artists Breaking Limits and Expectations. If you're not familiar with us, we create theater and film projects for, with, and by individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm a white woman with chin length, brown, and mostly gray hair that is really feeling itself with the impending rain this afternoon. There's a lot of wave, a lot of frizz. I am wearing a teal t-shirt with the A.B.L.E logo in the left chest, and you can see there's a whole lot of books on a shelf behind me. And I'm joined today by Erin. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Erin Harvey. She, her pronouns. White person with chocolate brown hair and wears glasses. I'm also part of A.B.L.E, pack, and actor. I'm also an aide for St. John of the Cross School.
Abby returns.
All right, thanks everybody. Next slide, please.
Agenda.
All right, so here's our agenda for today. We're going to be going over the 8 senses, talking about sensory processing and sensitivity. We'll talk about what sensory toolkits are and how to build them, and some considerations just to keep in mind while you are building those kits. And then we'll hear a little bit from our folks from A.B.L.E about how they use sensory toolkits in their work. At the end of the meeting, we'll have a Q&A. And just as a reminder, if anybody has questions throughout the presentation, feel free to go ahead and use the Q&A feature on Zoom to submit those questions. Next slide.
The 8 senses. Melanie.
Before we talk about sensory toolkits, we are going to be talking about the senses. Traditionally, most of us have been taught that there are 5 senses. However, neuroscientists argue that there are actually additional senses, with an estimate between 22 to 23 senses in total. Having a broader view and understanding of different human senses acknowledges the needs and the support that are necessary for sensory use. Here are 8 senses that are common when you are building a sensory toolkit. Next slide, please.
Outward-facing senses.
The first senses that we will be discussing are outward-facing senses, or as I lovingly refer to them, now that's what I call music, the senses version. Next slide, please.
Visual sense or seeing.
Visual senses. Visual senses include seeing clearly, seeing both details and big picture, distinguishing foreground versus background, seeing despite high or low contrast or brightness. Visual sensitivity triggers include LED lighting, strobe lighting, visual overcrowding, jarring patterns, reflections that could be off glasses or off windows or mirrors, and glare, and also bright colors as well. Next slide, please.
Auditory sense or hearing.
Auditory sense or hearing. Auditory sense includes detecting noises and speech, processing spoken language, tolerating noise at different volumes and frequencies as well as pitches, filtering out sounds as well. Auditory sensory triggers include noisy or crowded settings, such as those that you might find in a cultural institution, loud music, competing sounds, which include several people talking at once, or music with people talking, and also certain frequencies, which can be high pitching sounds or a repeated sound as well. Next slide, please.
Tactile sense or touch.
Tactile or touch. There are different types of touch senses, but we're going to be focusing on light touch, which could be putting your palms together, or it could be a deep touch, such as pushing. Light touch can also feel like skin surface travels on a pathway. Light touch is the felt of the skin surface. So it travels on protective pathways to the brain. It warns us of danger. And deep pressure touch is a deeper layer of the skin that travels on another pathway, as do vibrations, temperature, and other types of tactile input. Tactile sensitivity triggers include certain textures, materials, or surfaces. Some may avoid getting their hands messy or wet, while others may look for opportunities to use their hand objects and supplies. And also some visitors may be concerned about being lightly touched or bumped and avoid wanting to be in lines or passing through crowds altogether. Next slide, please.
Smell and taste senses.
And finally, the final two senses for outward are smell and taste sense. Smell is a protective sense that alerts the body to potential danger. It is the only sense that travels directly to the limbic systems, the emotional center of the brain. Taste detects a few basic flavors. These senses give us the important information about the safety of the food and the environment. Smell and taste sensitivity triggers include smells of exhibit materials, cleaning products, perfumes, other people, and food. Also, smells from public restrooms and cafeteria food are also popular smells in cultural institutions that might be sensitive to some. Next slide, please.
Hidden or internal senses.
So now that we've heard about those 5 kind of visible senses, we're going to talk about a couple of hidden or internal senses as well. And these are things that all of us experience, but that we might not recognize that we're experiencing. Next slide, please.
Vestibular and proprioceptive senses.
So the first ones that we're going to talk about are the vestibular and proprioceptive senses, and that refers to our sense of movement and our body awareness. The vestibular sense helps us to keep our balance and move through space while knowing kind of where we are, and the proprioceptive sense tells us where our body parts in. So it helps us understand like how we're moving and the space we're taking up. Some experiences of sensitivity with these senses are getting dizzy easily or tired quickly, appearing physically awkward, feeling the need to sit or lay down, having difficulty managing body parts, especially if there is low lighting, and then craving movement like walking, running, jumping, or twirling. The vestibular sense is based on the inner ear, and the proprioceptive sense is based in joints, muscles, and connective tissues. So folks who have any kind of issues with joints, muscles, or connective tissue are probably going to experience sensitivity in this with this particular sense. Next slide, please.
Interoceptive sense.
Great. So the next one we're going to talk about is the interoceptive sense. This monitors our internal physiological state. So it's beyond conscious awareness unless there's a problem or something that our body is alerting us to, like needing to use the bathroom, feeling hungry or thirsty, feeling too warm, things like that. So sensitivities with this sense can cause sensitivity to poor ventilation, temperature, feeling rushed or crowded, and then difficulty accessing or comfortably using bathrooms, water fountains, cafeterias, and things like that. These sensory experiences can change between these states based on like mood or other factors like that. So it's sensitivity in these senses is not always consistent. It can be variable. Next slide, please.
Sensory processing and sensory sensitivity.
All right, before we talk about sensory processing and sensory sensitivity, just a reminder that you can ask questions in the chat, and we will have a Q&A portion towards the end to answer any questions that you might have, or maybe comments that you have. So this is a great time if you have any questions from that last session to put them in the chat. Thank you so much. Next slide, please.
Sensory processing and sensory sensitivity.
All right, so sensory processing is a neurological process of transforming sensory input into meaningful messages that provide vital information about our bodies and our relationship to the world around us. For most, sensory processing happens automatically. However, sensory processing affects many people, and it's looked at as about 5 to 16% of the general population. I know I have some, and I'm sure some of you do as well. Sensory processing is a neurological process of transforming sensory input to meaningful messages. I just said that. Yep. Sensory sensitive people can have strong reactions to bright lighting, high-pitched sounds, strong smells, crowds, and temperature. Again, all of these you can find in nearly every cultural institution that you may visit. Many people who identify as neurodivergent can be sensory sensitive as well. Next slide, please.
Sensory processing and sensitivity in cultural spaces.
So, yeah, folks that have sensory processing or sensory sensitivity can have a really different experience in cultural spaces than other people might. These cultural spaces can be uncomfortable, overstimulating, or intimidating for people who experience that sensitivity. Those sensory challenges can lead to physical and emotional distress, and that can manifest in different ways. That fight, flight, or freeze response can get activated when that sensitivity is being affected. And it's also not the same from person to person. So some folks experience hypersensitivity, which means that they will avoid kind of like particular sensory inputs or those overwhelming sensory inputs. And some are hyposensitive, so they will seek out more sensory input. So it's not like a unilateral experience. Everybody has kind of a different experience with these things. And again, like these can be affected by things like mood or temperature or like the size of the crowd and things like that. Thanks. Next slide, please.
Sensory kit overview.
All right, so what are sensory kits? So sensory kits are sensory tools and support items in a portable container that help to reduce overstimulation. It also ensures that everyone has the best possible experience from a sensory standpoint to enjoy cultural institutions. These tools should be free and easily accessible to guests at all times. Next slide, please.
What are sensory toolkits?
And they help with overstimulation, and they ensure everyone has the best possible experience as well. Next slide, please.
Building a sensory kit.
So here are some important steps when it comes to building your sensory toolkit. Next slide, please.
Choose a container.
Choose your container. It is really important when you're choosing your container to think about that it is portable, durable, secure, and easy to clean. So for example, you could think about a tote bag or a string bag or a plastic tube. This allows the guests to wander around the cultural institution and not have to worry about carrying something that is really heavy or using arms or different limbs. And also it should be something that is easy to sanitize. So something that is machine washable, or you can spray with alcohol as well. Also, something to consider when choosing a container is considering something with your venue logo on it as well. That way, it can help with brand visibility and also help if they get lost as well. Next slide, please.
Choosing kit items.
Choosing kit items. There are two different categories when it comes to these items. So there are filters, which modify the sensory environment of the venue. This includes earplugs, and stims, which provide helpful ways to process or interact with the environment. Next slide, please.
Tactile tools.
So tactile tools are something that are very important to put into a toolkit, and it's probably something that you think of first when you think of a sensory toolkit. Tactile tools include stress balls, which provide tactile simulation and help relieve tension, fidget spinners and fidget cubes, which are handheld gadgets that offer sensory simulation and promote focus and relaxation. Tactile items including soft fabrics, Velcro, smooth stones, and textured surfaces to engage the sense of touch. Next slide, please.
Visual aids.
Visual aids are also really helpful when in an environment too, especially those where lighting is constantly changing or different. So this could be calming visuals such as images or photos, calming lights such as gentle movement lights, or sunglasses, which help to provide to block out brightness or glare. Next slide, please.
Auditory tools.
Auditory tools. So some examples of auditory tools include noise reduction headphones, earplugs, or ear muffs, reduce noise sensitivity and provide auditory relief in noisy environments, relaxing music or soundtracks, headphones and preloaded audio files with calming music, nature sounds, or guided meditation sessions, and white noise machines. I know of some places where there is a card that will take you to a playlist of nice, relaxing music or sounds that go with the museum or with the cultural institution. Next slide, please.
Self-regulation tools.
Another element that you can add into your sensory kit are self-regulation tools. So these help if you are overstimulated with a place. These include breathing exercise guides, which include instructions or printed guide for breath exercises to promote relaxation and emotional well-being. I also know of some places that have tiny little figurines that can help with doing breathing techniques such as 4 square breathing or 4 box breath. Prayer or meditation pamphlets, which can provide comfort and mindfulness exercises to facilitate and relax and reduce stress as well. Next slide, please.
Additional items.
And there's also additional items that you can add as well. Personal comfort items. This could be brought in by the guests themselves and could also be used to put into the bag. Or if this is a kit for your company, you can already have that item in with it as well. Snacks and water. Again, if you have your own company, something to put aside as well. Mints, a lot of times when it comes to overstimulation or if someone is having some anxiety, something such as a mint can help come back to that moment. And also essential oils. Again, with essential oils, you have to be aware of people with sensory sensitivity to smells. And usually those are put off to the side. I know for my personal one, I have my oils in a separate bag and usually put them away from other tools. Next slide, please.
Common considerations.
All right. I'm going to jump into some just things to think about and consider as you're making sensory toolkits. Before we do that, I just wanted to show a quick example of some of those self-regulation tools that Melanie was talking about. I work at Aquarium. We use sensory toolkits that we provide to guests through an organization called Culture City. And in those toolkits, we have these little cards. On one side of the card is like an emotion chart. So people can identify like which emotion they're feeling just by pointing to the image rather than needing to express it verbally. And on the back of the card is a list of things that they could need. Things like sunglasses or a fidget or noise canceling headphones. And again, this is meant to take away that feeling of having to find the words to express it. You have kind of just options here and can point to it. Something like this can be really useful, especially for folks who are feeling like overwhelmed by that sensory discomfort. It kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So just wanted to give a quick demo of that there.
Abby, really quickly, can we take down the slides and show that one more time?
The card is pocket-sized.
For sure. Sorry. Yeah. So here it is up close. This is the side with those emotion pictures. So you can identify which emotion emoji you're feeling in that moment. And then on the back side, you have those things that you might need so that you can just kind of point to that to identify it. This can be really useful too for folks who are maybe at a cultural institution on their own and experiencing that sensory discomfort. This allows them to communicate with institution staff in like a less anxiety producing way. They can just kind of point. Thanks. Okay, if we get the slides back up, perfect. So I'm going to just chat about some things to consider while you're building your toolkits. If we can go to the next slide.
Storing and maintaining tools.
So one big consideration is storing and maintaining their tools. establishing the need to return sensory tools to the kit after each use and thinking through how that's going to be enforced at your institution. Thinking through ways to make sure that there aren't additional barriers to accessing those toolkits. So things like not requiring advanced reservation, not including an additional cost for those kits, not requiring verification of disability in order to utilize those kits. So really making sure that there aren't additional barriers. And then thinking about a sanitizing workflow and what kind of sanitizing supplies you're going to need as you're choosing your items. For example, if you're choosing a stuffed animal to put in a sensory kit, who is responsible for keeping that clean? How are you washing it? How is it going to hold up over time to like regular and repeated washing and sanitization? Next slide, please.
Budget.
Great. Budget considerations. So obviously, creating kits like this requires some investment from an institution, but it doesn't have to be a big spend. You can put together a really basic sensory kit with about $10 per kit. That's really like the low end. That'll give you access to things like earplugs, small fidgets, those like emotional identification cards, things like that. If you have a little bit more to work with, a good starting point is $25 to $50 per kit. That allows you to access things like noise reducing headphones, more like larger or more complex fidgets, things that might need a little bit more specific cleaning or repair or things like that. And then if your budget permits, you can go anywhere from 60 to 100 for like a really comprehensive, high quality kit. So just kind of determine what works for your institution. And then the other decision that you have to make regarding budget is how are you funding maintenance and replacement of kit items? As you can imagine, things go missing sometimes. It doesn't always happen that things get returned to kits. And so what department in your organization is responsible for maintaining that? Next slide, please.
Other sensory kit considerations.
Some other sensory kit considerations, like I mentioned previously, are item loss, use tracking. So how are you collecting data about how these kits are being used and how frequently they're being used for your institution, and where is that data going? Like, how are you utilizing that information? Especially to be able to make adjustments and iterate on those things if you're identifying that something maybe isn't working or something's working really well. And then again, departmental responsibility, who's taking the lead on that, and managing distribution, maintenance, sanitization, things like that. And then a schedule for sanitizing, making kind of a decision about what kind of commitment and like time you need to be able to keep those things clean. Next slide, please.
Share out from A.B.L.E, artists breaking limits and expectations.
All right, so let's welcome back Erin and Katie from A.B.L.E. Hello, Katie.
Hello, hello.
Katie appears top center above a blank space marked Erin Harvey.
I'm sure Lauren is hunting for Erin in the participants tab to be able to turn her camera back on. She'll be with us shortly.
No worries at all. We are so excited to have A.B.L.E here. While we are waiting for Erin, let me just say that from rehearsal room to lobbies of their performances, A.B.L.E, or Artists Breaking Limits and Expectations, utilizes sensory toolkits in all of their spaces, giving everyone from their actors to staff to audience members to all community members the opportunity to express and experience theatrical arts such as theater and film through multiple supports. We are still waiting on Erin to turn on her video. So
I think the first question's for me, so
oh
I'm
yeah, that's
started.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we will now ask questions from both Katie and Erin about their experience working with sensory toolkits.
Erin's video appears at bottom center.
So Katie, what tools are in your sensory kits and how do you use your kits?
Yeah, just to give a short recap too of A.B.L.E and what we do. Again, we make theater and film primarily, working with ensembles of folks with all different intellectual and developmental disabilities. Our friend Eric is here in the chat as well. So we've got actors with all different needs. Every person we work with, whether they identify as disabled or not, frankly, every person in the room has different needs, including having a different sensory profile. And as they pointed out earlier in the presentation, some people might be hypersensitive, meaning they're highly, highly sensitive to different senses, but some people might be lower sensitive and might actively be seeking out some sensory input. And we also know that that sensory sensitivity can change day to day, hour to hour. Depends on things like how much sleep you've gotten, whether you've eaten well today. Are you hydrated? What medications are you taking? What emotionally is happening in your life that is impacting how you're responding to your environment? I have chronic migraine. I'm super sensitive to changes in the weather, like barometric pressure, and that can really influence my ability to process things like fluorescent lighting. Some days I'm cool with it. Some days it makes me feel like I'm gonna vomit. So these changes, there's no one size fits all approach to accessibility because everybody that we work with is different, coming in on different days. And we also know that because we work in theater, some sensory inputs unavoidable. We're dealing with lights, we're dealing with sounds. We've got costumes made of different materials, props made of different materials, and of course, other people who are unpredictable sometimes. So there's things we can't change about our architecture, about our spaces, about the environment we're in, and that's why we have sensory toolkits in all of our spaces, public performances all the way to our private rehearsals and our contracted workshops, to try to make it possible for folks to self-regulate and feel as comfortable in the space as possible. A lot of times in theater, you'll hear about things like sensory-friendly performances, and I always ask, sensory-friendly for who? I think we sometimes have a really narrow view of who's using these types of services, but the reality is everybody might need a little bit of support coming into a space. So at our performances, instead, we talk about having relaxed performances. This means we're relaxing the expectations on our audience to sit quietly, wait for their turn, sitting in the dark, the actors talk, the audience isn't allowed to move or make noise. That's not how we roll at A.B.L.E. So we work to kind of change the cultural expectations as much as making sure that then we're also providing tactile support. And that also includes training our front of house volunteers and our staff to make sure they're on board and ready to support that. We have a range of tools at all of our performances that are open access. There's a sensory table in the lobby, or sometimes two, depending on what space we're in, that people are welcome to self-select the tools that they know work for them, because again, they might have all different needs. So some basics that we provide are some really easy fidgets. These marble tools are great.
Katie holds up a marble in a closed rubber tube.
They're really easy to sanitize. You can just dunk them in some rubbing alcohol, and there's lots you can do with them. You can squeeze them, you can move those marbles around. And we also use a lot of stretchy bands in some baskets at our public performances. Important if you're looking for bands that you're thinking of things that are latex free, because we also don't want to be contributing to folks' allergies. These two options are also really cheap, because people might not return them even if we ask them to. So it's easy for us budgetarily to replace them if needed. That's for fidgets. We also provide things like disposable earplugs and larger ear defenders, because of course there's some sound inherent in the theater, and sunglasses to deal with lighting. The other thing we offer is a sensory guide. In advance of each performance, audience members can look and see, scene by scene, some of the things that they might be experiencing in the show. So they know when to anticipate a loud sound cue. They know when to anticipate that it's going to get darker or lighter, so they have a little bit of a head start. Sometimes having things like a social narrative or a sensory guide or a sensory map of your space can help people know what to expect. And just knowing what to expect can make it a little bit easier for them to respond and be in the space. In our rehearsals, our kit is a little bit more robust than what we offer for public performances. And we're trying to have tools available that appeal to all of those 8 senses that we talked about. So things like sunglasses, but also fidgets that have lots of different colors to appeal to that sense of sight. We have some little plastic, they're almost like lava lamps that we can watch those colors move. Sound, again, some folks are hypersensitive to sound. They don't want a lot of sensory input. They'll want ear defenders or my loops, but some folks actually are sensory seeking and want some sound. So we've got fidgets that make just kind of a gentle sound that hopefully isn't overstimulating for folks who want to get away from that, but still gives something to the folks that need that input. It is important to know, again, everybody's got different needs. There's going to be conflicting access needs in every space that we're working in. For smell, as Melanie mentioned, we've got some essential oil rollers. Sometimes people need to drown out a smell. We also have a scent-free policy in all of our rehearsals, so we're asking folks not to come in with strong perfumes and lotions, and we're thinking about that when we're laundering our costumes as well. So we're using scent-free things there. We talked about for sense of taste, things like mints, cough drops, water. Also being aware that there might be folks who are seeking taste and they might put non-food items in their mouth. We are always welcoming people to bring their own tools that they know support them, things like jewelry that they are welcome to then put in their mouth, and they can help to assuage that a bit. Some people are really seeking touch. We love some spiky balls. These are just super easy massage balls, great to have because they can really like feel that, or snap bracelets. I also have a calm strip right on the laptop because sometimes you need to touch some things. And for those more elusive scents, proprioception, I love a weighted pad. I'm also thinking about our room setup, making sure that we are setting up our spaces without lots of obstacles in the middle for folks who are struggling with balance or vestibular sense or with proprioception and their awareness of where they are in the space. We want to make sure that we're not putting things in their way and that we're putting really clear signage to help them gauge how close they are to something or far away. For that vestibular sense, we have, again, things like bands, but we also program in time when we know people can jump, move, dance, swing, spin in a circle, and get some of that out. And for interoception, we're programming breaks, making sure that there's quiet space. There's place for people to take a break and pause. Abby shared the communication cards from Culture City. We have our own version at A.B.L.E that rely on the zones of regulation, so people can let us know how they're feeling. We also have this version that lets us know what people need. I need to take a break. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to eat or drink something. I need to ask a question. Sometimes we work with actors who are non-speaking, so this is just kind of a baseline for them. But it's also important to know that if someone's approaching sensory overload, if they're approaching a meltdown, they might lose the ability to speak. So they might really need that, or they might not have the energy to communicate verbally with you. So we want to think of all different ways that we're bringing and welcoming people into the space. That's what's in our kit.
That's fantastic, Katie. Thank you so much. It's interesting you mentioned communication because also the Lincoln Park Zoo also in their kits also has a communication board as well that features the most popular animals and what you need in terms of a bathroom break or snack. If you open it up too, we have additional words as well and some common phrases that you might want to ask, as well as checking our mood temperatures as well. Katie, you said something earlier about not sensory friendly. I know a lot of times we talk to adults and they say, when can we have an adult sensory friendly night? And it's like, you can still come to our sensory friendly events, even doesn't matter what age or whoever you are. What was the phrase that you used in replace of sensory friendly? Because I believe language is so important, especially when language is changing in disability spaces.
Yeah, and it's a different mindset because we do still think about trying to make our performances sensory friendlier by making sure we're not using things like strobe lights, right, or flashing lights that might be triggering for folks. But we focus more on the audience experience. So we talk more about having relaxed performances, that we're relaxing the expectations on our audience.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Katie. And still owe you. I accidentally took one of your fidgets from one of your performances, and I feel good about not giving it back to you. So thank you for telling me that.
Yep. No
Um,
worries.
can we put the slides back up and we'll go to the next question, which is for Erin. And Erin, how do these kids support you at A.B.L.E or in a rehearsal setting?
Hi again.
Hi.
To use a headset.
You use a headset. Can you talk a little bit about why?
Because it helps me to focus better on the person that's speaking.
So you like to use a headset. And during what times of rehearsal, when in rehearsal might you go to the sensory toolbox and get the headphones?
When it gets high pitched.
High pitch. So it's not just about the volume or how many people are making sounds, but the pitch of the sounds and the frequency of the sounds can be triggering. Yeah. Are there other times, are there anything else that you see people use in rehearsals often?
They use lots of physics.
Erin holds up a fidget spinner.
Lots of different fidgets, all different kinds of fidgets, spinners and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you feel when you when you go grab those headphones? How do you feel before using them? And then once you are using them, how does it make you feel?
Can you repeat the question?
How do you feel when you put your headphones on? What does it help? How does it help you, or how does it support you?
Oh. It helps me to focus the person that's speaking.
Helps you to focus better.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the person who's speaking. Erin, you also, so that's inside rehearsal. When we're in a performance, you also do something, there's also something really important you do before performances to help you with sensory input. Can you talk about your performance routine?
I tend to meditate.
You like to meditate. So you like to have a quiet space where you can go to get in the zone for a show. And how does that help you?
It helps me to focus on the performance part, not the background.
Yeah, so this is about you being able to do your best work and be focused. I get it.
Thank you so much, Erin. Erin, follow-up question to the meditation, because I love meditation and breathing techniques. Do you use an app to help you focus while meditating, or is it something you're thinking in your head, or is it a breathing technique? How do you meditate before a performance?
I meditate because I get nervous on stage.
Nice.
To be fair.
Yeah, and you just have your own routine, right, Erin? I've not seen you use an app, but
No, I
yeah.
don't.
I know Andrew uses one of our other actors has a breathing app that does a visualization of breathing for him. So that's really helpful visual stimulus.
That's great. Thank you so much. Apps are wonderful, and you can always use a QR code in your sensory toolkit to find apps or anything connected to your site as well. Please put up the slide.
Thank you. And then our last question is for Katie and for Erin. What is your go-to support item from the sensory kit? What thing do you like to use the most?
Katie holds up noise filtering earplugs.
I always have my loops with me. I really need sometimes I just need to drown some sounds to help me focus. That's a big one. And then when I'm home in my office, less so in rehearsal, I love a weighted pad. I like to keep it on my lap. It helps me feel grounded. If I'm in a big migraine flare or an attack, sometimes that'll be around my shoulders, just to help me stay grounded and focused. I can also be really, really sensitive to smell when I'm in a migraine attack. So an essential oil roller can really help me. If there's a smell I don't like, I can choose something. And sometimes the choice is the thing that helps me feel better.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, Erin,
Erin,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I use earplugs and stress ball.
Earplugs and stress balls.
And bottles.
Yeah. And you have your own toolkit, right? You have your own toolkit that you bring with you sometimes, right, Erin?
Right.
Yeah. Can you show me your fidget again?
Erin spins the black fidget with colorful dots.
Amazing. It's a good one.
Nice. Awesome.
I love
All
the
right, thank you both.
colors.
Melanie joins the panel at top left above a slide reading Q&A with A.B.L.E.
Thank you both so much. Thank you for just talking through those questions with us. We are now going to open our Q&A session to the whole audience. And so we'll hear some questions from everybody in the room. We have a list of questions that we've been collecting from the chat. Now our first question, or I'm sorry, do we have somebody who's leading the Q&A session?
I
Or
can
am I good
ask
to take it away?
I can ask the first question and we can go back and
Okay.
forth.
Sure, sounds good.
The first question I see is, do your organizations take information from an ID or hold an ID, or how do you make sure the sensory bags are returned if you don't charge a deposit for guests to borrow the bags? Great question. So here at the Lincoln Park Zoo, when a guest comes and they are seeking one of our sensory bags, what we do is that they can either offer they either can give us an ID or something equivalent to an ID. Some people don't feel comfortable giving IDs right now. So it could be, I believe, $20 or something equivalent to that. That way, that we make sure that they do come back to us. I don't know how it is at Shed, but Abby, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, it's very similar. We take either an ID or some other something that functions the same way. So you have to kind of come back to that welcome desk and get it back, or turn your kit in order to get it back. And that doesn't always happen. I mean, I think to Katie's point, like sometimes it just doesn't come back, and that's just kind of part of how it goes. And so part of like having that sensory kit, especially for us, because our sensory kits are in partnership with Culture City. We're in communication with them about like if something goes missing, how do we replace it and things like that.
On her phone.
I can show, this is a museum I went to recently that did a setup, and what they talked about. I don't know if anybody can see this. So they have big stands when you first walk in, and they have pegs that have a limited number of bags available. So it's a little bit of like an honor system there, but it also, I think, holds people accountable to saying like, oh, that peg is empty and I need to put it back on that peg. You can't miss it. It's right by the door.
That is fantastic. Katie, what museum was that?
That was in London, and it was, I think, the Frick. It's like one of the science museums in London. I can walk you there, but I can't remember the name of it. I'm very sorry I'm very sorry to them.
I can relate to that.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I can show the next question from the chat. And this one is about what I mentioned regarding the partnership with Culture City. The question is, was this a formal partnership, and or did they serve as a consultant? Do they maintain a list of standard cards based on types of cultural institutions, or are the cards proprietary to the institution? That's a great question. It is a formal partnership at Shed with Culture City. Culture City has participated in conversations about kind of the big picture of accessibility at Shed as well. I don't know if it's like termed a consultancy, but it is like certainly termed a partnership. The card that we have is not proprietary to Shed Aquarium. That is provided by Culture City. It's branded with Culture City's logo. So it's a little different from the tool that Melanie shared from Lincoln Park Zoo, which is specific to that organization. I think, you know, as a cultural institution, if you're creating sensory kits, you have the freedom to like build a tool like that that reflects kind of the nuances of your organization and what you might need. But certainly having kind of that baseline card from Culture City is a good place to start.
CultureCity.org, spelled with a K.
Definitely, yeah. And to talk a little about Culture City, because Lincoln Park Zoo also
A black cinch bag.
repping the Culture City merch, also works with Culture City as well. What's great about Culture City is they will give you materials as well, including here are some earphones in another nice bag, and they will also give fidgets as well as cards. Something else that we were talking about before is sometimes they'll give a lanyard, and the lanyard is to either identify or if there are different line opportunities to cut, it helps with that. There's Abby has one right now.
Abby holds up a lanyard with a black plastic card bearing the Culture City logo, a white crisscrossed heart, wearing headphones.
However, here at the zoo, we don't have that, which is a nice thing about Culture City, which is there's certain tools that you can add or not add. Uh, for example, the communication board with the Lincoln Park Zoo is added to our Culture City bags. What's also wonderful about Culture City is to have that certification from Culture City, you have to, a certain amount of people in your organization has to do their training, which is online virtual video training. And once you have that number, then you can be Culture City certified, meaning that you can be on their website. And also they have an app that tells you which organizations are part of Culture City. And they will give you signs too, designating quiet zones or sounds. And also, since Culture City is one of the bigger organizations for sensory input and exput, it is pretty recognizable, and folks do. I have heard people talk about how they do come to these institutions that have Culture City, not to advertise Culture City. I mean, you can, but because it's a reliable source. I will also say one more thing about Culture City is we recently did our Culture City training, and we had someone, an employee, email us and say how they were happy we had this training because it means that they care about people who are similar to them who also have sensory sensitivities. So it also shows where you work that you also care and support them as well. So that's something I wanted to mention too about Culture City. Let's go to the next question. Can you give us a sense for how long it takes to put together a sensory guide for your performances? I'm on board for a performing arts organization in Springfield, and we're in the early stages of exploring these ideas.
Yeah, and in a response to that question, I did drop an example of one of our sensory guides in the chat. We are a tiny team at A.B.L.E, so how we work ours is we record a run through, and then our company manager spends what is typically anywhere from 5 to 10 hours watching that run through and kind of breaking it down into those guides. If we go into like if we're consulted to write a larger social narrative, I would say I'd probably estimate more like 15 to 20 if we're also thinking about like how are people getting to the space. Let's talk about the ways of that where the bathrooms are and what type of windows there are, right? So if we're trying to really do a big sensory audit of the space, it gets a little more intensive than that.
Thank you so much, Katie. Erin, I know Katie was talking about the sensory guides. How do they help you in rehearsal, the sensory guides?
Which one?
Oh,
Like
that's
a
a great
social
question.
story. Do you use the social story before rehearsal or like before our first time in a theater?
Yes.
Do you
I
prefer to
always
have
read it.
you read it? Do you like to have the written social story or when we do a video social story?
Both.
Both. Yeah, they're both for different things.
I'm a visual person.
Yeah, same. So it's nice to have words and pictures, and sometimes it's also nice to get a point of view walking through a space and seeing what that space is like firsthand.
True.
Thank you so much. I love videos too, so I totally forgot about that. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Can we please bring up the slides, please?
Upcoming programs. The panel leaves.
All right, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. It was so great to have everybody here. I'm going to just talk really briefly about some upcoming events that we have through the Cultural Access Collaborative. We have 2 in-person events coming up soon. On January 29th, join us at Jenny's Ice Cream at 3404 North Southport Avenue in the Southport neighborhood for an ice cream social. From 3 to 6 p.m., 25% of all purchases made will be donated to the Cultural Access Collaborative. And we'd love to see you there and eat some ice cream together. And then on February 21st, our next professional development program will be held at Access Living at 115 West Chicago Avenue from 3:30 to 5 p.m. You can join us for our equipment loan social, where you'll get the chance to meet and greet with other members of the collab community and get a look at our equipment that's available to borrow through our equipment loan program. Registration will open next week, so keep an eye out on the Cultural Access social media to reserve your spot, or you can reach out to us at culturalaccesscollab.org to reserve your spot. Next slide, please.
Resources, 2 QR codes.
Great. These QR codes will take you to a couple of resources for today. On the left, there is a list of professional development resources related to this program. It includes today's slideshow presentation, as well as some other helpful resources that our presenters shared during the program. On the right-hand side is a survey that we would love everybody to fill out just to reflect on today's professional development session. And just let us know what worked for you and what you'd like to see next. We also hope that if you enjoyed today's program, you'd consider making a small donation to support the mission of the Cultural Access Collaborative. Even just $5 will help to make our work sustainable in the future. At this time, we're going to be bringing today's program to a close. We'd like to thank all of our presenters for their words today and sharing their experiences. In the chat, you'll also find a link to that feedback survey if the QR code is not preferred for you, and we invite everybody to complete that survey. Thank you so much to our accessibility service providers. Captioning was provided by Heather Trainer with Efficiency Reporting, and ASL interpretation was provided by First Choice Interpreting. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. Thank you to the Collab production team, and mostly thank you to you all for joining us, for offering your support to the Cultural Access Collaborative and bringing your minds and hands to this work.
Last slide.
Thank you again so much for supporting us. And at this time, the program has concluded, so you're welcome to exit the Zoom room.
Credits appear. Sense and Support, Building Meaningful Sensory Kits, presented by Cultural Access Collaborative. For workshop resources and more information, visit culturalaccesscollab.org. Presenting speakers, Melanie Zehner, CAC and Accessibility and Inclusion Coordinator at Lincoln Park Zoo. Accettura, CAC and Senior Learning Specialist for Teen Programs at Shed Aquarium. Katie Yohe, Founder and Executive Director at A.B.L.E. Erin Harvey, Performer and Program Advisory Council Member at A.B.L.E. Workshop Accessibility, Real-Time Captioning by Heather Trainer with Efficiency Reporting. ASL Interpretation by First Choice Interpreting. Video Editing, Captioning, and Audio Description by BridgetMelton.com.